Mandela, Nelson Mandela.
It's been just about 20 years now since apartheid collapsed in South Africa and Nelson Mandela rose from prisoner to president. So what has become of Mandela's vision for the country? We asked South Africa's ambassador to the U.S., Ebrahim Rasool, who once served time in the same prison as Mandela.
Probably the most important parts have been realized of Mr. Mandela's vision. It's the foundation of a democratic South Africa. I think South Africa today is very proud of the fact that it probably has the most far-reaching vision of what freedom is. South Africa has resolved many issues of minority rights, whether religious, ethnic, or racial, or linguistic minorities. It's probably the most inclusive society you could find. And those are remarkable achievements within 20 years. I think it's probably unrealistic to expect that we would be able to overcome poverty, because poverty persists in large pockets till today. I think it's unrealistic to think that we can, within one generation, remove the vestiges of poor education, of illiteracy, and of ignorance in our country. Those are the challenges that I think remain.
I've heard you say that we captured the political kingdom, but not the economic kingdom.
I think that that's absolutely correct. The miracle that the world hails has been achievable simply because at that moment we understood that had we insisted on an all at once achievement of both the political and the economic kingdom, we may have stood the chance of destroying both. We may have had to destroy the economy in order to inherit it. Now, what we are having in South Africa, a younger generation who have no memory of apartheid, who don't understand exactly just how bad things were under apartheid, but compare themselves not with their ancestors, but with their peers across the world. And therefore, the drive towards a second transition is driven by the kind of debates in which mine workers are saying we don't need to be excluded. Why are we living in huts when we know what the platinum price is? And therefore they go on strike. Farm workers know that South African wines are selling on the global market, but they are not feeling the effects in their pockets, and therefore they even do desperate things. And so young people are saying we don't need to respect the property rights and the ownership rights that Mr. Mandela negotiated. We need nationalization of the mines. And so we are absolutely aware of the deficits in our society, and we are trying to manage those deficits in responsible ways, allowing people to debate, allowing people the right to strike, allowing people to voice their discontent, but always steering it into constructive ways of managing those debates.
I've spent a fair amount of time in Africa, just a tiny amount of time in South Africa. One of my real pet peeves is how poor the coverage is here of what's going on there. One is discussing it as a monolith, saying Africa and not specifying which of the 50-something countries you mean. Another is that the coverage is almost either terrible things happening or sort of unrealistically Pollyanna tales. I wonder, from your perspective, now being here a couple years, what you think folks here aren't hearing, don't know about.
I was very unpleasantly surprised that at the time when President Obama was probably making an economic visit to the African continent, US attention was consumed by the Zimmerman case. If they had understood how many young people are there potentially without jobs, and that it's either a blessing or a curse. It's a blessing if we harness it properly. It's a curse if we let it lie fallow, because it could be the source of the next wave of insecurity in the world. We're seeing the early signs of it. Does the USA want to put a fence around Africa and say to its young people, you can't come here and we won't allow you to create insecurity in the United States? Or do we invest in that potential?